Hi, guys, and welcome to the fundamentals needed for success in business partnership. Essentially, we thought it would be a really great idea to do this video because we have had some interest from people who are looking to go in partnership with not only their romantic partner, but people who they have worked with previously that have said that they're interested in doing the same things. And they've reached out saying, before we make this big jump, what are the sort of things that we need to know? Because we don't want to spend money and time and have effort and maybe break things up between us before we go into this whole partnership together. So we have decided we'll do this quick little webinar on this topic, and we'll also pull together some training as well. If anybody is interested, then they can send a message about that.
Yes, and of course we do have our Powerhouse Coaching Duo package available for those who are interested in actually taking it that step further and getting that strategic guidance. That's not what this webinar is about, however.
Yeah. But let's just start the webinar now. I want to firstly introduce ourselves properly. I'm Jenna McGarr. I have been in the coaching space for about four or 5 years now. And I originally set off, having left work, decided, having my babies, I am going to never go back to work. It's not the sort of restrained lifestyle that I want. I want to be able to work with people. And I went into coaching through helping people in their businesses who also need help in their mindset. And it was a lot more of a sort of softer approach to helping them with their imposter syndromes and that sort of thing. I made some beautiful connections and did really well in that business, but I found that the business side of things was really where I was ticking off what I'm super capable at doing. And funny enough, it was a similar journey for James.
Yeah, and I think Jenna has undersold herself there. Like you really transform people's lives in so many respects. The business side of it was one element, but yeah, from relationships to helping them as parents to budgeting to everything. Like Jenna covered so much and changed a lot of people's lives through that business. So a lot to be celebrated there. And what a great decision to not go back to work and to set up her own business, because it's worked out really well. I, on the other hand, took my skills from my job, my career as a marketing strategist in the corporate world, and set up a digital marketing business. I took on a slightly different journey to Jen. Jen was high ticket from the very start. I started doing ad hoc jobs, so anything from building websites to setting up people's emails, that sort of thing, and realized how difficult that business model is. I then quickly jumped to high ticket coaching and was doing high ticket business digital marketing for businesses, small businesses, but in packages. And that is where our two worlds suddenly started to align. And it made a lot of sense for us to join forces and help other people in their areas of specialism set up their high ticket coaching businesses as well.
Yeah. So with that done, let's jump straight into it, shall we? We're going to kick off with visions, goals, and mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a lot of details that need to be ironed out if you're going to go into partnership with anyone in business. And a big part of that is having a shared vision. So, of course, you have to both enter the business with an idea of what the outcomes should be. Yeah. You can't be working towards separate outcomes. Individually, you're going to have your own opinions, but you need to come together on that and decide what that is for your business.
Yeah, that's
and then
really
both
crucial.
Work towards that. Yeah. I personally had a business with someone else, not Jenna, in a partnership where we were both very capable. But to be honest, we had different visions from the start, and we sort of knew that, but we glossed over it quickly.
It wasn't just vision, though. There was a drive. There was a difference in your level of drive as well. And that's also really important, which is also something we're discussing here.
Yeah, and you will know that from the get-go, really. If you're going into business with someone, then you should know them very well. So you should know what their level of drive is, what their level of commitment is, what motivates them to go into business. Yeah. So that you know whether you're at the same level or not. Yeah. And if you're not, then you're going to really struggle in business together.
Yeah, you need to have that same effort put into things, that same sort of drive to want to make something happen. It's like a passion to make something happen, because I think, as James was saying, without it, one of you's skyrocketing and trying to do it all, and the other person might be doing it in their own way, and then you sort of driven apart. Yeah. So what's super important then is to be able to communicate to one another as well. Your approach of how you communicate needs to be on the same level. And as a man and a woman and a husband and wife, James and I have actually had to really figure this out between us. What I think made our romantic relationship go so well for us is I immediately met a man who was emotionally intelligent and someone who could communicate how he was thinking and feeling, and vice versa. And we met each other on that level. We were on the same frequency. And when it came to disagreements between us, it was something for us that we had to identify what's emotional and what's logical, and then how do we deal with that. And the same needs to be done in business with your business partner. It is a partnership you have with one another. So you need to find those ways where you can have a disagreement, but it not be a disagreement that's going to shake the foundations of what you're building. It's not going to be a disagreement that means I'm not going to talk to you for a day.
Yeah.
You have to be able to approach your communication style in a way that is actually beneficial, even though it might be a disagreement.
Yeah, and it's fine to have disagreements. Of course, you are. You're two humans, you're two individuals, but it's about having an openness and empathy for the other person. And the great thing about, like, if you went through this list, is you would know how open that communication was, and you'd know where there were barriers if someone was holding back. And you can identify those during this process and say, you know what, either this isn't going to work, or hey, look, we've got a challenge here. How are we going to tackle this? And we've got the communication approach to disagreements here, because disagreements are going to come up. You are going to have differences of opinion.
Yeah.
It's just about how you are going to approach those and how you're going to move through them. So yes, you're going to have different opinions. One of you is probably going to be more experienced or more skilled in a certain area, and therefore you have to think about who is going to then take the lead on that particular issue.
Yeah, and also you need to identify if that's not something that's your skill, then maybe that's something you should be working at, because it's a partnership. You both need to try and meet each other in the middle rather than lean on the other person to do that work.
Yeah.
So what's the very, very important last one on this page is goals. So it's so important that you have that clear understanding of what your goals are. Typically, when you're a couple in a partnership, in a business partnership, I should say, your goals tend to be quite similar. There might be someone with a little higher risk appetite, that's the word, thank you, higher risk appetite than the other person, but essentially the goals need to be the same. And it's important when you have a friend or a colleague, someone whom is the other partner to your business, that they have the same business goals as you, because you know that that is something you're working towards. You're not figuring out along the way, well, why haven't you done that? Because that's going to reach this goal. Isn't that the same goal? So that's another very important area to be very clear on.
Yeah, and more than likely, one of you is going to push the other one a little bit more. And that's great, because you want to get to a point of, if one's really optimistic and one's a bit more pessimistic, then meeting in the middle somewhere, but pushing your business outside of your comfort zone. It's a great thing to have. And also personal goals. So outside of the business, what is the lifestyle that your partner wants to live, and how are you going to enable that for them and celebrate it with them? Going into it with that clear understanding is going to be really helpful.
You might have the situation where someone's going to want to spend the money that they make on the fancy purchases that they buy, and someone else might want to invest their money and put it down into something that's going to grow their wealth in the future. And whether it's your way of doing it or not, you need to respect that that is their way and that celebrate that with them.
Are you talking about us there?
Have you bought something?
Okay, so now we move on to decision making. So you've had a lot of alignment on those goals and what you want out of the business. So that's inside and outside of the business, as we've discussed. The next step down from there is, what business model is going to be conducive to allowing you to achieve those goals? And you want to think about this long and hard. And as I've said, inside and outside of the business. If you're developing a business model that is, say, time for money, where it's you have to work X amount of hours at X rate in order to get the targets that you're looking for, then that might not work with the personal goals that you have outside of the business. So choosing something more like a package, as what we generally offer for our clients, might be a better model for you. But it's really just looking at that from the get-go, agreeing on it, making sure that it aligns with your goals, and then following that business model. Because once that's set, it's set. you don't want to be too agile on that. You don't want to be having too much
Yeah.
movement on the business model.
And when you have agreement on that business model, what's really good about that is that's often the decider of any arguments that you have about the business.
Yes.
Because if you feel like you should be doing something one way and not the other way, the way you should be doing it is by that model. And whomever is deviating from that model needs to come back into that. And that is the way that you decide, right, well, that's the argument done with because we go by the business model. We agreed on that.
Exactly. And similarly, strategy that feeds into that business model. Once you've got the business model, it's a lot easier to then talk about the strategy.
Yeah.
Does the strategy align with the business model
Yeah.
then? And usually it'll be a simple yes or no. And once you can start getting to that level where you're agreeing on the ways of working to that business model, then again, you're going to have a lot of agreement. So
Yeah.
strategy might be, who we're going to work with, how many clients we're going to work with, what pricing structure we're going to have, how we're going to deliver to our clients.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you want to, again, pretty much have set in stone.
Yeah.
They're not things to be discussing day in, day out. We know how this business is operating.
Yeah.
We know what we're trying to do in terms of the outcomes of the business. So then you come down to the next level, which is tactics, which this is the part where there is a bit more flexibility, right? So again, with flexibility comes the opportunity to have potential differences of opinion, disagreements, you might want to call them. But if up front you have had the conversations, open communication, understanding what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, what potential roles someone should be stepping into because they have more expertise and are more likely to have success in those areas,
Yeah.
they're the ones who start to lead those tactical level decisions.
Yeah, and you don't want to be too emotional about it, thinking, oh, that's something I'd really like to do and I need to get better at it, so I want to do it. The business comes first, not your own ego, essentially.
Yep.
You need to, if that person's super good at doing that, you let that person do it, and then you make sure you get up to scratch before you start taking turns in doing that as well. So it's really important you know where your ego lies and what is best for the business, because the business comes first.
Yeah, and sometimes what might grow the business is the one who has the weakness growing in those areas, so you can scale quicker.
Yeah.
Or you can allow that person to have time off from doing that. So it's not to say that you stick to that thing and that is your strength, so you only do sales or you only do marketing. It's maybe you would lead, maybe you would have the final say on the decisions in that, but support your partner in growing in those areas. 1 + 1 = 2 +. So we've had this question come up a few times. Can I make as much money together as a partnership as us both operating separately? Now, Jenna and I have operated our own coaching businesses separately, and we've operated together.
Yep.
And for us, definitely working together has reaped more benefits than as we were working separately, both in terms of time and money.
Yeah.
And also just general enjoyment.
Yeah, it's true, because we're on the same level. Do you know what I mean? We're on that same wave of approach.
Yes. So we'll come to the money aspect in a moment, but I do want to revert back to the goals that you have going into the business, because it's not all about money. If you're going into business just for money, then you're going into it for the wrong reasons. Primarily, it should be to serve the people that you're trying to work with in your coaching business. In addition to that, you've got to be happy in your business. You've got to be doing the sort of coaching that you like doing.
Yeah, things that light you up and things that you find fulfilling in the output that you get from what you're doing. Because essentially you're just going in and doing a job.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to steer away from. We're trying to do what lights us up.
Exactly. So think about more than just the money in terms of what 1 + 1 = 2+ can get you to.
Yeah.
And as part of that, I've got yin and yang on here. So if you're operating a business on your own, you have strengths. And with strengths generally come the opposite weaknesses. Now, I guess examples of this might be if someone is particularly creative, they tend to be people who are not very good at timekeeping. Not everyone. I'm not trying to offend anyone here, but there is always a yin to your yang. When you're in a partnership, if you've chosen your business partner correctly or to your benefit, then you can be the yin to your business partner's yang. So I would highly recommend that you do look at your skills base, make sure that it's compatible,
Mm-hmm.
and then think, is this going to work for us? Now, obviously, two of you might be creative, and that could be great for a particular type of business.
Yeah.
And both of you might be lousy at timekeeping, and then you just got to keep on each other's toes for that. You're not going to be perfect match for every single attribute that you have, but there's going to be certain areas where you do complement each other.
And then time per hour versus premium packaging as well. So how can you make as much money working together as you would separately if you're charging your time per hour?
Yes. Yeah. So on a time per hour basis, obviously there's in some regards there's a ceiling to the limit that you can charge per hour. So if if you have a skills base that allows you to maybe charge $200 per hour, I could charge $200 per hour, Jenna could charge $200 per hour. Together, if you want to get more than 2+, you need to charge more than $400 an hour.
Yep.
Now, that might make you very uncompetitive in the market. So that probably isn't going to work for you. What does work for a coaching couple, whether romantic or business partners only, is to package your services. And the reason for that is when you bring your skill set together, when you bring your experience together, you're bringing so much more than just one individual's point of view, one individual's experiences and skills. You're bringing it together. So you're much better at problem solving. You're much better at removing friction for the client. You're probably more appealing to a greater audience in the market. Not to say that you should be going for a broad audience, but even within your specific niche, there's going to be different personalities that some might be think that Jenna's personality is appealing. Some might like mine. You're going to bring logical versus emotional. You're going to bring feminine versus masculine elements to this. So there's a much greater way of packaging that all together and selling it as a premium offer rather than, hey, here's my dollars per session charge.
And the idea again is to step away from the world of being a slave to your trade, right? Being a employee whom your time is what you're giving up. And for us, it's too much to give away. So working together and working in a model that allows you to not spend all your time in your business, but to spend the time that is necessary in your business is far better for us, not only financially, but also personally.
So yeah, I think finally, I would just encourage you to look at yourself and your partner and what are the biggest problems that you two can solve together. Because the bigger the problem, the more you can get paid. The quicker you can solve the problem, the more you can get paid. The more friction you can take out, the more you can get paid. Okay, and there's a little bit of a typo on this page. Ensuring that personal relation isn't impacted. Again, this is a question that we quite regularly have. How do you ensure that your personal relationship isn't impacted? Most people are either a romantic couple or they're friends going into business together, and you think, oh, this is a great idea, like we love spending time together. But then there is the other reality of, well, you spend your personal time together and now you're spending your business time together. So how do we make sure that that doesn't become a problem for the relationship? So the first one on here is know how to plan to resolve disagreements. So as we've said, disagreements are going to come up in your business. It's how you communicate on those disagreements to make sure that it doesn't drag out longer than it needs to. Now, I've witnessed some partnerships that have a lot of arguments, people slamming the phone down on each other. That's not where you want to get to. You want to be at the point where, okay, clearly there is a clash here in opinions. What do we want to do to move past this as quickly as possible?
Start this at the start of your business. Like, sit down with your partner and say, okay, there will be disagreements, hopefully not many, but there will be. So when we have them, let's work through them in this way. Can we agree to that? Yes. Handshake. That's how you know that you're going to move through those arguments, because you've set the boundaries of what is agreeable for you both.
And I think planning is a big part of this as well. Like, we have daily meetings around 15 minutes a day, agreeing on where we're up to with certain projects, almost like a scrum, right? So, targets are discussed on there, what we're doing today, what we've got coming up in the week, what we've got coming up in the month.
Prep is key.
So if you're both aligned in the meeting beforehand, then there shouldn't be too much of you going off track during that. And if someone does, then you say, hey, look, we didn't discuss that in the meeting. What was your intention there? This is what I think about it. And then you can quickly resolve it.
And then business being a separate entity, and like obviously by this we mean you need time that is away from the business together. You also need time away from the business and time away from one another. But it's really important that you fill all three of those categories, because if you were just business, 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 then things are going to start crumbling and falling down, because it's a human relationship. You're not working with AI, you're working with a person with emotions and feelings, and it's very important that you do make sure that you get your own time and that your business gets its own focus, as well as that relationship gets the focus it needs.
Yeah, I think this is probably easier to say when your business is going well.
Yeah.
If you're, everything's going hunky dory in the business, it's hitting its targets, you're getting the clients that you need, you're being successful with your clients, and you're working well as a duo, then it's easy to go, okay, business has stopped now. Now we start our personal time. If the business isn't going so well and there is some stress around that, you still need to understand that there has to be a cutoff.
Yeah.
You can't just be constantly talking about business. Now, I guess a natural cutoff for us is that we have kids. So as soon as the kids are in the picture, we're not talking business, because that obviously just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we have also chosen a very simple business model that means that we're not working 9 till 5 every day, 5 days a week. We're working a few hours a day, and the work that we have done, we know is going to get the results that we're aiming for. So the simpler you can make a business, the more this can help in this way as well.
Yeah, and that's a really nice segue into the next point of the clear work-life balances. Just really off the back of that, you need to make sure that you both agree where that cutoff is and where your boundary is for when you want to talk about work and when you don't. And that way there won't be that disagreement, because you know that this is something that you have pre-established.
Yep. And then teamwork. You are a team. It's
Yep.
the two of you. You're in this together. The better you both work, the better the business is going to be, the
Yep.
happier you are outside the business.
You want to see it as you guys against the world, right?
Exactly. Yes. So think about the other person before you think about yourself. What is
Yeah.
going to benefit them? How can I help them? How can we make this better
Yeah.
for both of us by doing that?
The more you bring your partner up, the more your business gets brought up, and the happier your life will be for it.
Which again is a great segue onto the last one. Keep it light.
Yes.
The way you start, say we have our business meetings in the morning, the way we have that, the set the tone for that business meeting sets the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So you keep that light, you keep fun with it. You do videos like this. It's not too serious. You just, you're enjoying it. You're ad-libbing, you're working off each other.
Yeah.
You're making sure that you're having a lot of fun every day in the
Yeah.
business.
Take pause to have a laugh.
Exactly.
And that's it. That's essentially, I'm just going to check this last slide, Q&A. Yes, that is it. So this is the point where you guys can send your questions through. We have had a few previously and have responded to that, and we can put them into the comments below if anyone else wants to see our answers on them. But please do let us know what it is that you are going through, or any queries that you might have that we haven't already covered off here.